Hi, so I'm back at it again with another video. I really enjoy these things. It gives me a chance to get excited because I'm very passionate about this reflection and this topic I'll start getting into, but also it gives you a chance to see what resources I have versus me typing up a long thing about it. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with my literature that I discovered during the second portion of the class. I did a lot of research during my annotated bibliography on students with social anxiety or anxiety-induced stress due to gifted education or gifted students with anxiety. It's a large spectrum, so I had to really hyper focus on just anxiety. But during my research, of course, I did discover a lot of different aspects of anxiety that can occur for gifted students. So literature-wise, I did a lot of research on anxiety in students, and that's kind of the literature that I really had a big takeaway from this second portion of the class. I used it for my final presentation, I used it for my research, and I now use it in my daily life. So one of the pieces of that, I could talk for 30 minutes about what I discovered. One of the pieces I think that's talking about that subcategory of anxiety that I discovered with gifted students was perfectionism. And this is a portion of the literature that I discovered from one of my articles. We talked about it in class actually a little bit, but it's the difference between perfectionism and the pursuit of excellence. So in gifted students, we have that, they want that pursuit of excellence. They want to take it one step further. They have that drive to kind of look at something in a different perspective. However, that can get really easily muddled with perfectionism. And so a student who may have perfectionism, a gifted student specifically, may be overlooked, and it might be that typical stigma, oh, he's gifted, so he likes to have things a certain way. I talked previously about my reflection about stigmas before, so I won't go into that. But this reference of literature was really useful for my research. This portion of it right here that you'll see, this reference chart can be really useful for teachers, for parents, even students maybe when they're older. So these are just some examples that I've actually seen. Actually, now that I reflect back on some of my portions of my classes. So excellence would be doing the research necessary for a term paper, working hard on it, turning it in on time, and feeling great about it, okay? That's excellence. Perfectionism in a gifted student would be seen as doing 3 drafts, staying up 2 nights in a row, handing in your paper late because you had to get it right, and still feeling bad about it. Another example would be willing to try new things, taking risks, learning from your experiences and your mistakes. That's excellence. Perfectionism would be avoiding new experiences because you're terrified of making a mistake. The individual that I interviewed for this process, I saw a shift between her excellence to perfectionism because the anxiety she began to have induced because of the training that lacked from her teacher. And so I wanted to do more research on that. And a lot of my research was based off of, okay, how can you support gifted students? How can you recognize the different anxiety stressors that they have? And perfectionism is one of them. So I feel like this literature gives a chance for teachers to be really able to kind of zero in and notice if, for instance, they have a student that has perfectionism. One second. The different picture, and it's just a bit of a lag, so I just pause this to continue, so that's why it jumps. So my first takeaway would be that gifted students, and I'll go more into differentiation, but gifted students require more attention. I think there's that stigma that you can just leave the gifted student alone. You don't have to worry about them. They're smart, they're creative, they're logical, they've got it. This word cloud really encompasses what I mean. There's more than just the word gifted. They're emotional, they're sensitive, they're observant, they're curious, they're logical, they're overexcitable, they're perfectionists. All these different things, different layers of a gifted student that I feel like can be easily overlooked with that stigma that, oh, he's gifted, he's got it. I think that's something very important that I have considered during my research during this class. I've really learned a lot about how gifted education and gifted students require just as much attention. I've really changed my own opinion on gifted students, because I will not lie, I did have that stigma of, oh, they've kind of got it. I'll pair them with another student, or give them a harder question. So that has really changed for me. I've learned the difference between gifted and bright. All students are bright, but not necessarily all students are gifted, and that's okay. And that's something that took me a second to understand, but now that I understand it, it makes perfect sense. So definitely the socio and emotional needs of gifted students is something that I would be a big advocate for. The training of teachers to understand gifted students. If you're going to have training for students who have differentiation needs, why wouldn't you have training for gifted students? They're just as important. And that goes off to my second takeaway from this class. If you'll give me 1 second. Differentiation. And this is exactly what I mean, is you have that gifted student in the corner, and yes, they may be educated, and yes, they may have their different aspects, and they may have these creative ideas like a rocket in the classroom. But why separate them from the class? Why not integrate them into the daily activities that you have? Yes, she's not exactly doing a lesson here, but this just gives an example. Why not differentiate every lesson for your gifted student? Why not make sure to include them in your topics, and making sure to meet their needs as well as your other students? It has now become an automatic response for me when I'm creating my differentiation for lesson plan to put a portion for gifted students. And that includes doing your research. So just like you would have specific technology for students who may need help during their lesson, you're going to do the same for your gifted students. Every gifted student is different, so knowing them and knowing what the differentiation would be for them is highly important. What would work for one gifted student won't work for the other. So that doesn't mean, oh, differentiation will be just pairing them with another student who doesn't understand it, or, oh, giving them a harder question. It's really challenging them. It's meeting their needs, or it might otherwise affect their socio and emotional needs. They might become bored, they might become agitated, and you don't want that, because gifted students grow as gifted students, but they can lose that if it's not supported. So I think that's very important, and that's a big takeaway that I've gotten from this class, and I'm a big advocate for training. A population of gifted students that I have honestly overlooked in the past, and I should have considered more, is rural students, students in poverty. It goes back to that stigma of gifted students come from these rich upper class families, but in reality it's not. Gifted education is diverse, and it's from different classes and different religions and different economic statuses, and there's so much that goes into it. And definitely ways that you can support students who may be facing poverty, which a lot of rural students are faced with, and how you can still offer them a fair and equal access to education, because it does affect their daily life. So for instance, when I was doing my research, not only for this class, but also for special populations for my presentation for RENCAF, poverty was it. Some gifted students don't have the access to computers at home. Some students don't have access to getting to extracurricular open classroom hours. So making sure to kind of look at that talent act and see ways that you can meet rural gifted education students in the middle and help them meet that gap to get the fair and equal access to education they deserve. I think that if anything, this class has really opened my eyes up to gifted students in general, and just being more of an advocate for them. I always believe in them, and I think that they're great, but now I'm realizing they just need and they deserve our attention as much as any other student in our classroom. And it deserves a different type of attention. And I know we're spread thin, and I know sometimes they can get overlooked, but that's just something that I've become a big advocate of. I've really enjoyed this class. I've had a great takeaway. I'm already looking at ways to incorporate different activities and programs to better differentiate for gifted students, and I look forward to using this knowledge in the future. Thank you.